Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, unless Theresa May surprises us with a snap general election, the first big vote of 2017 will be for locally elected mayors. Significant power and money will be devolved. But is the system transparent enough to stop mistakes being made? Well, Parliament's prestigious Public Accounts Committee has some concerns. Its chair, the Labour MP Meg Hillier, joins me now. And a very good morning to you, Meg Hillier. Is this kind of slipping under the radar, given what else we're discussing at the moment? As I was saying there in the introduction there, we've got huge powers and huge amounts of money being devolved to the regions, and you're concerned, aren't you, about the oversight and the transparency?
That's right. I think if you, as you say, it's slipping by. A lot of citizens out there, if you stop someone in the high street in Wolverhampton or Solihull or somewhere, they wouldn't really know necessarily that it's coming. And one of the questions that's got to be asked is, when that money is devolved, who's actually going to be accountable for it? The Treasury thinks it's the Mayor, but there's kind of more complicated structures than that. And there's also a really critical issue. When government passes money down to local areas to spend, it's got to be clear that it's enough money for that area to deliver what it's supposed to be delivering. And it could be, who's going to be the arbiter if there's a disagreement between a mayor and the government about whether they've got enough money? Well, a lot of people, I suppose, certainly outside those areas and within those areas, then explain to us what the structure is in place when we're getting these mayors. I mean, I suppose the most high-profile one people are talking about is the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, amongst the contenders there. What is the oversight process? In London, the Mayor has the London Assembly. What do they have in other areas? Well, there's a combined authority in each of these areas, so that's the local authorities in those areas will be establishing their combined authority. So that's mostly the leaders. They're beginning to recruit staff, but it is very patchy and very thin at the moment. So there isn't, for example, the equivalent of a Public Accounts Committee in those areas, or even anything like that. And of course, we've lost the Audit Commission a few years ago because of government reforms and changes to the way audit's done locally. So there's a kind of gap, really, between where government goes and then it's passed over. And I bet you, if anyone in any of those areas wanted to follow the money, it would be very hard to do.
Could we potentially be in the situation where we have these mayors with, I mean, huge powers, huge budgets, and they can do things which, I mean, not suggesting any of the current candidates would go this way, but we think about other countries. We think about Toronto. We think about.
Well, you have to protect for the mad and bad. Yes, not suggest. Yeah.
But where it's been seen where there can be huge abuses of power.
Well, the idea is the combined authorities will be a bit of a check on that, and so there's going to be, I think, a tussle immediately there. But the key thing is, if government's passing it down, they need to be clear that those accountability structures are in place, that it's easy for a citizen to follow the money, and not just say it is the case without proving the point. But I think there's also something incumbent on mayors here, that they need to set out their stall at election time, and their citizens, the voters, need to ask them, how am I as a citizen going to know what you're spending the money on? I think we should be clear, it's not actually as much money. It sounds like a lot of money. There's only a certain amount of central government funding that's going down. I'm sure, though, mayors will ask for more. So getting these structures in place so that you can follow the money is really important now. And I think those mayors need to be thinking about it at this point as well.
You made a very interesting point earlier on, and of course it's very pertinent at the moment in terms of the discussion we're having about social care, and already the relationship between central government funds and there being enough money around amongst the local authorities to provide that social care provision. Is that an area that you could have concerns about under the new system?
Absolutely. It's no good saying we're passing you the money and it's all going to be fine. If there then is a problem down the line, who's going to be the decision maker? Government may just say, well, we've given you the money, it's over to you. And if there's an issue in that local area, how are they going to be sure there's enough money? There's some freedoms on business rates and local tax raising, but there's not some panacea. Even this recent announcement about social care, 6% on the precept is very different amounts of money in different areas. It depends how much council tax is coming in from those areas to begin with. So it's quite complex, but the simple message is, if you're a citizen in those areas, really ask your mayoral candidates, how are they going to make sure you can follow what's going on? And those mayors need to make sure, and the combined authorities, that they've got a clear approach so that you can look it up if you want to know how that money's being spent from central government. But government also can't be let off the hook. They can't just pass it down the line and say, fine, we're devolving, giving power away, great, but they've got to make sure they know what's happening.
And just why is it happening? People are going to be asking. I mean, have you looked into the relationship? Is there a direct correlation between devolving powers, devolving money, local enterprise partnerships and things like that, and economic growth? Because that's what's meant to happen.
Well, there's a very moot point on that. No one really knows. Only one of our core cities, Bristol, actually contributes back to the exchequer. So, you know, any new change might bring big improvements, but we don't know that for sure. And with LEPs, we've seen some real concerns, particularly around transparency. 5% of them don't produce any financial information, and nearly 9 in 10 don't publish the money that they're paying their senior staff. That's taxpayers' money. That's the sort of, if you like, a litmus test for us. If LEPs are doing it like that, we've got to be clear that mayors, who are elected at least, so that you've got that electable accountability, don't follow the same approach. It's not just free money, it's our money coming from central government to be spent in our own areas on things that matter to us. But if you don't know how it's being spent, you can't follow that.
And lastly, can I ask you as a Labour MP your views on the wave, or maybe that's too strong a word, but the number of strikes that seem to be taking place, timed to have maximum impact in the run-up to Christmas? Do you think your party should be taking a stronger line on the unions?
Well, look, I think it's absolutely right. People should have the right to strike, but I think it is a very unfortunate combination for people travelling, workers, at a particularly difficult time of year. And I think that all trade unions, even though they're fighting for their rights, need to really think about the impact on the people they're actually there to serve, their customers or their passengers. And I think that there needs to be a bit of a wake-up call about the impact on hard-working people who are trying to get to work or go on holiday. And I think that if not careful, they could be shooting themselves in the foot.
Meg Healy, very good to see you. Thank you very much indeed, Chair of the Public Accounts Committee there.